For 5 years, the Russian government maintained a clear domestic boundary. The war was a distant event, fought on foreign soil, far from the streets of the capital. Moscow relied on a massive investment in security to keep that boundary intact. The city was shielded by an integrated network of S-400 missile units, short-range interceptors, and high-powered electronic jamming stations. That shield failed on the morning of June 18, 2026. A swarm of 194 drones breached the capital's airspace, overwhelming local defenses through sheer volume. Several of those drones reached the Kapotnya oil refinery, located inside the city limits and just 15 kilometers from the Kremlin. By daybreak, 5 different sections of the facility were on fire. This was the refinery's second major disaster in 72 hours. A previous strike on June 16th had already disabled a primary refining unit, forcing the entire complex to suspend operations before the second swarm arrived to finish the job. These back-to-back strikes strip away the capital's perceived immunity. For the first time since the invasion began, the industrial heart of Russia is a sustained, active front. This reach is powered by Ukraine's new domestic manufacturing sector, transitioning from small hobbyist kits to the mass production of this long-range drone. The strategy uses cost to overcome technology. By launching massive swarms of cheap airframes, Ukraine forces Russia to deplete its limited supply of million-dollar interceptor missiles just to keep up with the incoming volume. The targets are chosen for maximum disruption. Kapotnya is the beating heart of Moscow's fuel supply, processing 40% of the gasoline and aviation fuel used throughout the entire region. This chart shows why these hits are so damaging to the Kremlin strategy. 1/3 of the state budget is funded by oil revenues. When a refinery goes offline, that revenue stops, leaving the government with less capital to fund the front line. This represents a move toward a strategic economic blockade. Ukraine is now using its drone fleet to bankrupt the Russian war machine at its source. The strikes have also created a deep crack in the state's domestic narrative. For the average Moscow resident, the reality of the war is no longer a television broadcast. It's a column of smoke visible from their window. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin attempted to minimize the incident, reporting only minor damage to a shopping center and claiming the drone attack was effectively repelled. However, footage from the Kapotnya district showed massive explosions continuing for hours. Citizens reported a heavy smell of burning fuel and ash falling in neighboring districts, directly contradicting the official accounts. Kyiv framed this operation as a direct response to Russian aggression against Ukrainian heritage. Specifically, the strike was launched to retaliate for the bombardment of the Kyiv-Pecharsk Lavra, a 1,000-year-old monastery. The timing also carried a diplomatic message. The drones hit Moscow just hours before NATO defense ministers met in Brussels to discuss Ukraine's offensive capabilities. By hitting the most defended city in Russia twice in 1 week, Ukraine proved to its allies that it could strike the Kremlin's center of gravity while simultaneously shattering Putin's domestic facade of safety. President Volodymyr Zelensky used the strike to announce a new phase of the war. He made it clear that the era of Ukraine merely absorbing Russian strikes is over. He summarized the new doctrine in 5 words: "If Ukraine burns, so will Moscow." This shifts the strategic burden onto Russia. Ukraine has spent years building a long-range drone force that allows it to trade blow for blow with the Kremlin's missile units. Vladimir Putin must now decide how to respond to a war that has reached his own capital. He no longer has the benefit of distance to protect his economy or his public image. The smoke rising over Moscow is the final evidence of a new, two-sided conflict. Putin now faces a choice: find a path toward peace, or watch the capital's energy infrastructure burn in a predictable cycle of retaliation.